Good evening and welcome to Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm your host, Dr. Val Parker Hagan, and I have my co host with me.
Hey, good evening. Dr. J.R. Thicklin here, and I want to say happy Tuesday to each and every one of you this evening. So glad that you've joined us today.
Indeed, Dr. J. Tonight we're going to be talking about expecting great. Everybody has expectations in their lives. Otherwise, there wouldn't be no life. You expect to do something good,
Yes.
bad, or indifferent, but you expect to do something. You expect to move from one level to the next. As you're born and you begin to grow, you
Right.
crawl. No, first you roll over, then you crawl, then you
Yeah.
stand up, and then you fall down, and then begin to walk. There's an expectation of movement, of growth from a baby on up into the lives that we now live now.
You're exactly right. And where will we be without having expectation? I've always lived by the saying that expectation is the fuel to drive dreams. We have no expectation, we have no fuel to drive dreams. So if we don't have expectation to become, to fulfill, to have a result, then generally we won't have it because the fact there's no expectation. So when you start saying set expectation, it does start early. It starts very early because we would think something was wrong with the baby that was 7 months old and the baby doesn't crawl, the baby doesn't move, the baby doesn't attempt to walk. And if we do nothing to cultivate that, then we are playing, if you would, we're being an accessory to that baby's, if you would, lack of growth or not developing.
Absolutely. And so it is with our lives as we transition from kindergarten to middle school to high school and even to higher education, if you will. There's an expectation of
Absolutely.
greatness, an expectation of purpose or destiny, if you will. And I want to encourage individuals that are looking at us tonight to know that regardless of where you find yourself right now, you can always begin again. You can always start again if you're not at the level that you feel that you should be at. Because the only time that your dreams die is when it goes with you. There is
Exactly.
no repentance in the grave. So, I don't care how old you are, those things that you desired or you wanted in life, you can always start. And it begins with you. A lot of times people haven't moved or caused a shift in their lives. They may have had an unexpected baby for women. The um, young men may have been playing sports and they had an accident and caused them not to excel into their dreams of becoming a professional ball player. There's different dynamics. You may lose a parent and it causes you to go into a depression mode where you just can't snap out of it because that burden, that weight is so heavy that you can't
Mhm.
cause that shift emotionally, let alone think about moving to the next level, because you feel when that person goes that your dreams and desires go with them. But I want to encourage you that as long as you're breathing, as long as you have life flowing through your veins, there is hope.
Dr. Val, you hit it right on the head because when we start talking about expectation, expectation is deeply rooted in our psyche, inside of our mindset. In other words, there's a scripture that says, so a man thinketh in his heart, so is he, or so is it that he becomes. And so it does start with our thinking. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is it or who is it that we're allowing to shape our thinking? Who's
Hmm.
shaping our narrative? What is that thing that's influenced the way that we see ourselves, not only in the present, but how do we see ourselves beyond today? And so, as you said, so many things that can happen in our life that can cause us to be derailed, that can cause us to be, if you would, not only derailed, but cause us to be left behind, left out. Those things there, oftentimes people will allow the failures of their past to cripple their future. So they throw in the towel. They think that they can never succeed. They think that failure is permanent. And so the expectation shifts. Now, do they no longer have an expectation? Yes, they still have an expectation, But the expectation begins to be on the opposite end where they don't expect to succeed. They don't expect to excel. They don't expect to be promoted. They don't expect to own anything. They don't expect it because of the fact they believe the narrative of what they
Mm,
or they believe the narrative even generationally. Kids could grow up in a family that is poor. Now, it's one thing to be poor; it's another thing to be poor. Okay, so you have to understand the fact when you're poor, you can't afford the other O or the R. So you just poor. But that's a mindset, and it's kind of like being broke. Being broke is temporary, but poverty is a state of mind. So it's
mm.
a state of mind in which we think. It's a state of mind. How do I not listen to that narrative? Okay, I know that we grew up in a shotgun house. You can see the back right from the front. I know that we did not have this, that, or the other. But how do I redirect my own narrative?
The
How I see
narrative.
my life? How do I see my life? That is rooted in expectation. That is rooted in my mind being able to say, I will not allow what has happened to me to determine where I am going. And we have to begin to develop that, and we have to cultivate that, and we have to be repetitive. That's what we mean by telling ourselves. What are you telling yourself? What tape recorder is being played in your mind? Your memories is part of your tape recorder. If you only focus on that which has been failure, if you only focus on all the negative things that have been said to you, if you only focus on the ones that deceived you, abused you, abandoned you, and those things there, you will have a terrible recording that will shape your narrative. But I dare you to start digging deep inside, and cultivating that which is positive. Because we know that you can rise from where you are, you can begin to be elevated and promoted, but it all starts right here in our mind.
Yeah, it's often a battlefield in the mind, Dr. J.
Yes,
The battle is always, I can't, I won't.
yes, yes.
And then you believe somebody's um, vision or purpose or the word that they spoke into your life. A lot of church folks
Yeah.
actually listen to whatever that prophet or pastor is saying to them,
Mhm,
and they believe it, and they embrace it. But
mhm.
not all prophetic words are to the letter. Not all prophetic words come into manifestation because of the fact that you have to have the faith to ride it out. Do you
Absolutely.
actually believe for that prophet's faith to come in alignment with your faith for that manifestation to come forth? That's where there's always a disconnect. And then we have people going into depression and stuff because they said that I was given this word that I'm going to have this house. I was given this word that I was going to be married before 2024, and I'm still not married. I don't know what's going on. And then they start doubting themselves, and then they lose courage. They lose faith because somebody dictated what they felt that their reality should be.
Well,
And
that
that's where the problem lies. Instead of you listening to your inner being and your mind of what it is that you want to do, what it is that you want to manifest to come into fruition.
Well, the other part of that too, Dr. Val, is that we have to understand, even if it's for prophetically being spoken to us, for every prophetic word spoken to us, there's also a responsibility to it.
A responsibility, yeah.
So it's not a wand.
Mhm.
It's not Merlin the magician. You go, this is going to happen to you. We have to align ourselves to those type things. It's
Exactly.
so different than a person saying, well, I see you have lost 45 pounds. I see you, girl, you're going to lose 45 pounds, and you're going to be this, you're going to be that. And you get happy and you start shouting, dancing about the 45 pounds, but you don't do anything to change anything. You're still eating your Oreo cookies and oatmeal and milk and potato chips after 9 o'clock at night. You're still having the same habits. In order to change what you expect, you have to change the way you think, your mindset, because we have to understand our mindset is everything. It gives us a visualization of where we are, or it can take us to where we desire to be. And so when our mind and our mouth and our heart all align, we can see things happen. But when one is out of order and it betrays that, then guess what? We find ourselves in turmoil. We've all heard the term self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah,
Mm,
I've heard it a lot of time with women. It becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. Why? because the fact they say, well, ain't no good man out there, ain't no good man, and you continue to do that, ain't no, and you continue to do so, or you keep saying, you know, everything. These other women, you just with the other women. You keep on talking about the other women, you're gonna make it a self-fulfilling prophecy. You've got
Mm,
to speak to the situation. You got to elevate your mind. What is your expectation even of yourself? What is your
exactly.
expectation? As a parent, and I say this to any parent out there, teacher out there, whatever, you don't motivate your children by putting them down. You,
Exactly. And
you don't,
a lot of parents do that, Dr. J. You're
yeah,
stupid, you're fat, you're skinny, always talking what they're not instead of encouraging them and manifesting those things that they are.
you know, throughout my life in raising my children, one of the things is now every parent got their own style. I personally didn't believe in corporal punishment, so I didn't do so. I grew up watching that, and I didn't like it then. So I made up my mind: no, you can talk to me. You don't have to. And what I mean, talk to me. That doesn't mean talk down to me. That don't mean verbally abuse me. But that means talk to me that we get understanding. And why is that important? Because in many ways, parents, we start beating kids when we're angry, when we're upset, and then we say things that we shouldn't say, or we overreact, or we use too much physical exertion. And inside of that, the only thing we did was beat them. We don't mean that they understood, because I believe this: punishment hurts children, discipline guides children, consequences teaches them. If we never teach them about consequence, if we never begin to talk about what discipline is, then they won't get there. So with my kids, when I need to correct them, I would say things like this. I would say, listen, I expect better than that out of you. That really disappointed me because I expected better than that out of you. That is so beneath you, and I know that you can do better. What am I saying to them? I'm constantly reminding them that I expected what? Better. And then you change the narrative when they start expecting better from themselves. We get caught up even in society. Think about it, Dr. Val. You could have a whole community that's ran down, depressed, uncultivated, unmanicured, and people could be riding around with cars that own rims and all these other things because in their mind, hear what I'm saying, in their mind, their goal, their idea of success, of getting it going on, is those things there.
Is those things.
It's those things there. They have no idea. They're oblivious to the environment around them. And so, guess what? To expect to want more, they don't include themselves in that because this is the only way that they see it getting it. But we have to change our mindset. We have to change our imagination. So a man thinketh, once again, in his heart, so is he, or so they become. You have to ask yourself, what am I thinking? Where am I putting my thoughts? What conversations am I having with myself? What conversation am I having with others? What am I rehearsing? What am I rehearsing? Because whatever we nurture, what grows. If we nurture negativity, that's what's going to grow. If we always nurture complaining, we always nurture what you are not going to be, that's what happened. There are people who have lost good relationships that could have become better because all they did was nurture the negative. They nurtured the negative. They practiced the negative. And sometimes that's your problem. You ain't going to ever get a new boo, a new man, or whatever, because you're holding the next man hostage to what the previous man done. So your expectation is this, and you have an expectation. It's a shut door before you even start. So you got to ask yourself, am I elevating my mind? What am I changing? What is my thought process? What am I really seeing? Because see, I like imagining. I like visualizing. Before God ever spoke the world into existence, believe me, he saw it in his mind. He saw it in the eye of his mind. And so when he spoke it, let it be, there was. Reality is when the mouth, the heart, and the mind align themselves together, our expectation becomes that much more obtainable.
Absolutely. And I like when you said that some people live in their imagination.
Yeah.
There's a thin line between imagination and expectations and manifestation. There's kind of a thin line because a lot of people, they feel that they're right. Just like when you go to talking about relationships,
Right.
there are individuals that are living a relationship out of their imagination with someone that doesn't even really fully know they exist. They
Well,
may pass them. pass them in a store, or pass them in a restaurant, and they wink at them, or throw them a kiss like hello, and then they like look for that every time they see that person, and they're okay with that because they've built up this relationship in their imagination, and it's not even real, but they have occupied their thoughts
Yeah,
and their emotions and given their heart
yeah,
to this individual that doesn't even know they exist, living out in the imaginations. There are people that have done online dating
right,
and
exactly,
hours and days and weeks and months and years talking with someone that wasn't even real. They were living out in their imagination, and it consumed them till it became a part of them. So their expectation was that one day the reality is going to come forth and I'm going to meet this person. They have that faith. What would it be, Dr. J, if individuals would take that faith and sow it into their dreams, their purpose, those things that they desire, those things that keep them up all night? Do you know that J.K. Rowling, before that's the person that wrote Harry Potter,
right.
had she
Mhm.
given up? I mean, she failed and failed, and then here comes Harry Potter. Then she's a millionaire because of all the series, and then the movie theaters bought the rights to her books. Then there was Stephen King. You remember that movie
Right.
Carrie,
Oh
when she
yeah,
went to
boy,
prom,
boy.
and
Oh,
then all the
absolutely.
paint fell on her, and then she just went ballistic. 30 times. They turned that script down 30 times, and look at Stephen King now. You people are knocking the doors down to be a part of his movies.
Dr. Val, what you're talking about is this: we can have expectation, but our expectation should also make us resilient. Why
Mhm.
is resiliency important?
Unstoppable.
Yeah, because see, we need to be resilient for those very reasons. When we are rejected, when we're told no, when we say that when people tell us it could never happen. And please keep in mind, when people tell you no, or they say it will never happen, or you don't have it, it's not always something personal. It is what they perceive based upon their limited vision. You got to understand, when you have vision of yourself, when you can focus on what I believe is, if you're willing to put in the work, if you're willing to shut out everything that's around you that comes to distract you, there's nothing to stop you from you achieving what's in your mind. When I use terminology like expect the great, I mean it. It's not a cliche. Expect the great. It
Expect
takes
it.
it takes the same amount of energy to expect the great that you allow yourself to succumb to and expect nothing. So put your energy, put your faith behind it. And when your faith is backed up with the word, let me say something to you. Your famous saying is always, when we're in alignment with our assignment, there's nothing that can stop us. So it's about aligning. Sometimes we have to step back enough to align ourselves or realign ourselves. Why?
Realign.
Because sometimes we have gotten off track. One of the things that we know, if you drive a vehicle long enough, that every now and then you got to have an alignment. You have to get a wheel alignment. Why? Because the car will start pulling to one side or the other. Now, the problem is people don't mind that because the car is still moving. So they figure, hey, it's still moving. It still get me from point A to B. But here's what's happening when that car is pulling, when it's out of alignment. When it's pulling out of alignment, it's going to wear out your tires on that side. Your threads are going to wear out sooner. Watch this. You put
Yeah, I
yourself
learned
in
that.
danger. You put yourself in danger, and you don't get the gas mileage that you should get and could get because, in fact, you're out of alignment. Listen, you got to understand, just because there's been a delay doesn't mean there's a denial. So as you was talking about J.T. Rollins, when you talked about the fact of Stephen
J.K.
King,
Rowling.
J.K. Rollins, Stephen King, we can go even with Dr. Seuss. We all grew up on The Cat in the Hat. Dr. Seuss was turned down by 14 different publishers. They thought what he had was foolishness. They laughed at him. They laughed at him. But how many know that 15th person who saw it through a different lens, they thought it was brilliance? And the rest is history, because all of us came up on Sam I Am, The Cat in the Hat, the Grinch Who Stole Christmas and everything that he wrote, because of the fact somebody understood their expectation was not going to be doused by somebody else's no. And somebody need to get that today inside of their mind. We're just on the second Tuesday in this new year, the second Tuesday in 2024. There's no reason for you not to begin to align yourself right now, your expectation, your thoughts right now. Begin to come on positive affirmation. Begin to say right now that I am capable, I am able, I shall fulfill. Why? Because I read somewhere that he knows the thoughts and plans that he has toward me. And that is to give me a future and a hope for me to prosper. If I believe that, then I now align myself. How do I put myself in position that I'm not in a toxic environment, that I'm not listening to negativity? You've got to start to value yourself before you can expect anyone else to value you. You have to start believing in yourself before you expect anyone else to believe in you. And I don't care how many, I don't care. And that's one of the dangers of toxic relationship. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationship. You could have toxic relationships right within your family. You have toxic relationship among coworkers where they're always putting you down. They're always sabotaging you. They're always speaking negativity. You've got to understand you deserve better than that. Because
Exactly.
when those negative words begin to take residence in your mind, when those negative words begin to take residence in your thought process, that means those people are occupying your mind and they're not even paying rent.
Hmm.
They're living there in your mind and they're not even paying rent.
Yeah, Dr. J, as I say, you go back to those things that individuals say to you, you try to live out what they expect you to live out to. If I were to listen to people that tell me, oh, you so short, you so tiny, you're not going to be able to do this, you're not going to be able that, it made me do even more so. I try to be the biggest, baddest little thing around,
Absolutely.
because they told me I couldn't do it. When my father told me I could do all things, and I'm talking about
Yes.
my natural father. My father always told me, "Oh, you don't need nobody to define you. You don't have to believe in no man to take care of you. I'm teaching you how to cook, how to clean, how to work, so you can take care of yourself. You don't have to be defined by a man. And then if you get married and he leave, you know how to pay your own bills." So this is one of the things that a lot of people fail in because they have their whole life wrapped up into other people as opposed to living out their dreams. A lot of times you're married, you have children, and you get swallowed up in those children and
Yeah.
forget who you are because you're so happy that you have this little bundle of joy, and then another one comes, and then another one, and then guess what happens to the husband? He becomes second, third, for whatever that child is, how many children you have, it pushes them further and further in the back. And then what happens? The marriage dissipates because of the fact that there was no affection, there was no emotion there, because you change the narrative of what the marriage was supposed to be. Instead of it being two become one, it became just you and the children. So we have to be careful on so many levels and of expectations, because even relationships, man and the woman expect different things, and they want that carried out regardless of who comes into their life space. They still need affection, they still need love. So those things are the first things to go when you go into a relationship. It's okay if you lose your girlfriends, but when you lose yourself so much so to your mate is no longer in focus, then that's where the problem begins.
You
And
know,
then the
Dr.
relationship ends.
Well, Dr. Val, I do believe in this day and time, and it's interesting because, at this stage of my life, I look at life a little different than I did when I was 20 years old. And, and life looked a whole lot different. But one thing I know is this, is that now we live in a time that we have to consider marrying for purpose, not
Mm.
just because you're cute, not because you make me laugh.
Explain that, Dr. J. You got to go into more details about
Okay.
that marrying for purpose, because I know a lot of people they marrying because the money is right,
No,
and
no.
and they say the love has no bearing on the matter. So explain that in detail, because I've heard people say I'm not married because I love him. I'm just married for convenience.
Yeah. Well, see, that's what I'm saying. See, everyone may have a different reason for being married, but here's the problem: the two people might not understand the differences that are there. See, you can be on one end of it, and your heart may be pure that this is why I'm getting married. I love this, I love that, I love the other. Well, the other person is not even emotionally invested in the marriage. They are definitely entertained and intrigued by the trinkets that you bring. Uh, they may be intrigued by the money that's there. They may be intrigued by the number of trips you take. They may be intrigued by all those eventful things, but the purpose have not really been established by the two of you. You cannot marry and you have two different purposes for coming together. Where do our purposes intersect? Because when we keep purpose ahead of anything, it will help us do what? We'll be able to brave the storm. We'll be able to do so. Because even when it comes to marriage for purpose and you're being together, sometimes your standard traditional roles may have to fluctuate. In other words, guess what? I can't just say, well, it's your responsibility to watch the kids and your responsibility to take care of the house. No, no. It may be time, brother. I got to roll up my sleeve. I got to help take care of the kids. I got to help clean up the house. I've got to do something what? To make sure that we keep balance inside of it because we have a purpose here. We need to
Absolutely.
understand, how does this purpose work? What is it that we discuss that what we really want? Now, here's the enemies of purpose. The enemy of purpose oftentimes is our preference. The enemy of purpose is oftentimes our preference. Well, I prefer 6'3". I prefer this. I prefer that. Well, how's it going for you so far?
Mm.
Because when our preferences override purpose, and sometimes that purpose, you ever thought about perhaps the reason there's a void and empty there because what God has really planned for you, you haven't met yet?
Mm.
You ever thought, watch this, we're told in scripture, many are the plans of a man's heart, but it's God's purpose that prevails. What do you mean by that? When his purpose prevails, watch this, his purpose should be greater than your plans. His purpose, what do you mean? Well, hold on, now you're confusing me. No, no. I'm saying when you can begin to discern where does my purpose align versus the plan. My plans need to align itself with the purpose for which I'm here. Because I'm going to tell you, beauty fades. We live long enough, gravity will have its way. Gravity will have its way with all of us. And if you don't have nothing inside of you but your admiration of the external, you're in for a rough ride. Because at the
Ooh,
end of the
yes.
day, who are you? Why am I there? What is it about you? Something here resonates with me that causes me to believe that I can. Something that resonates inside of me that helps feeds my belief system. In other words, that's what it means to be able to what? To uphold each other, to encourage each other. Listen, I put it this way. We ought to be each other's best cheerleader. I might not
Mhm.
look good as you do in a skirt, but that doesn't mean I can't cheer you on, that I can't support you. And that
Right.
goes back to, once again,
Expectations.
expectation.
Expectation. And
Yes,
a lot of individuals want to and expect great. But if you're not putting out greatness, how do you expect to get greatness back?
absolutely, absolutely. You know, Dr. Val, we got quite a few listeners there, and we're appreciating their comments in the comment section there. And thank you for there. I've got Jeff there from Oxford, Mississippi. Okay, and different
Oh,
ones that are
awesome.
there. Timothy and Cuthbert and Pamela, and I thought I saw Sherry earlier on, and they all are lending and saying amen, are definitely echoing some things that are being said, because at the end of the day, listen, expectation is the fuel that drives dreams. If you walk into something you have no expectation for it to grow, guess what? It's not going to grow.
It's not going to grow.
If you enter into something, see, if we enter into a covenant together, we have to have expectation, because I cannot nurture that which I don't have expectation for. And this is going to blow your mind. That goes back to another word that's connected to it. And I want to say this to women. Let me share some with you. As much as you want to be loved and deserve to be loved, let me give you that caveat. Much as you want to be loved and deserve to be loved, and you want an emotional investment inside of who you are because you want to be cared for and loved on and esteemed, I want you to know equally so your man needs that in the form of respect.
That's true.
See,
That's
when I
true.
when I counsel, I used to counsel from the book by the Herberts that said it talked about the fact the love that she desires, but the
Mhm.
respect that he needs. Because
Mm,
the respect that he needs, because that's what gives us foundation. Listen, I used to say, even when I was married and things like that, apparently no one listened. It was important to me. It did not matter how many people out there that thought I was great, that I was wonderful. It did not
exactly.
matter how many people said, "Oh, you are what? Oh, God!" All those folks lined up around you to see you. I would always say, "No, you don't understand that. That's a whole different type of appreciation, a whole different type of thing from what I get from you. If you, I can have all that, and you don't say nothing to me,
That's why
and I'm
people
down
stray,
myself."
because the compliments are greater on the outside than the inside.
Absolutely, absolutely. But when we understand this, just knowing that you're there. Because see, the person closest to you see you when they see you without your mask. They
Hmm.
see you without all those things. And if they can love you and respect you, even in those points, if they can be the person, no, I want to pour into you. I recognize that you've given out so much. No, I need you to come. Just I need you to relax. Let me take care of you now. That speaks volumes. Because guess what? Those people out there aren't going to do that. Not at all.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
investment of time, energy inside of them, they're not going to do that. And so when I go back to talk about expectation, that's why the enemy to expectation oftentimes is not only doubt, but it's selfishness. Doubt and selfishness. The enemy to expectation also is rehearsing the wrong narrative because you got to understand my dreams don't have to die because of my last mistake, because of my last failure. It doesn't have to die because the last venture did not go right. You got to always continue to speak faith, speak life into yourself. What? Faith comes by hearing, hearing by
Hearing.
the word of God. I need to continuously hear. I need to continuously repeat. I need to continuously remind because at the end of the day, I'm not measured by how many times I got knocked down, but I'm measured by how many times I got up.
Hmm.
And failure is not permanent, and failure never has to be fatal. The reality is, I often say, we have to ask ourselves the question consider the last time that you failed. Did you fail because you stopped trying, or did you stop trying because you failed?
Indeed. Indeed, Dr. J. We're winding up, and this has been a great show, and hopefully, someone will expect great things, rather it's in a business or their relationships or even their marriage, because of the fact that, when you apply information and your eyes are open to new things, I think you should walk it out, try it, especially if your thinking has gotten you nowhere and someone is giving you instructions on how to do. One of the things I said to my husband when I was leaving out this evening to go to church, I said, I called him back. I said, you know what? I appreciate you so much. He was like, yeah, really? I said, yeah. I said, I appreciate you. You don't hinder me from going to church or anywhere I want to go. You support me when I'm speaking or when I'm doing something. You're there for me, and I really appreciate that. And he was like, well, I appreciate you too. Just being there because he has his different challenges with dealing with the pain, and I'm always encouraging him because he's that same man that I walk down the aisle with. He's the same loving, caring person. And, like you said, things will fail.
Yeah. Yes.
Things will fail. I know at church at night, Bishop was talking about, yeah, after you turn 50, you're closer to the grave. I said, the devil is a liar.
Yeah. Don't we know
The
to be
devil is
so?
a liar. I said, I got a friend that just got married at 59.
Absolutely.
And another one just got married again at 64. So it doesn't matter.
There's hope.
It,
There's
it
hope. I'm holding
doesn't
on.
matter. Amen. Expect the great. I don't care how old you are. I know individuals I know someone that got married at 68.
Yes.
68 years old, and they're still thriving together. So don't count yourself out because, oh, I'm old and that, I'm by myself and nobody's going to like me. If you're comfortable in your skin, somebody is going to want to gravitate to you to find out and see why you're so jubilant and so fabulous.
You
So
know,
don't
Doctor.
count yourself out.
Well, Dr. Val, you shared something that was so meaningful there. First of all, shout out to your husband. He is an excellent brother. He is a
Oh,
solid
I
brother.
love
And,
him.
I love my dear brother because of the fact he understands the simple things. He understands the fact, listen, I don't have to hinder you because that's not my main thing there, but I can support you not only in my presence, I can support you in the fact of just letting you know that it's all right. I love seeing you improve yourself. I love seeing you go there. By the same token, you know what, Dr. Val, what is so important inside of this is that we don't allow ourselves to become victims of circumstances. You talked about age. You know, our dear friend Dr. Cindy Trim Tomlinson got married. I think she was 60 or 61 here just a couple of years ago, a few years ago. So
Few
we
years
know,
ago.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we know that that worked. And the thing about it, on another note, I'll never forget her dear husband, Bishop Russell Tomlinson. He and I had a conversation here maybe a year and a half ago now. And he said something to me that I will never forget. We were just having a conversation by phone, and he was talking to me about some things that he saw that was going to come down the pike in my life, and it was great. And he was saying, "Listen, don't you dare think that it's over for you yet, because basically you haven't seen the new reiteration of what
Yes.
God is about to do." And he said, "Now I know this." He said, "You're probably concerned about your age, not that we're that far gone, but definitely we're closer to 100 than we are to 50 now. You understand?" And so he goes, "These words here were so important, and I took them in my heart." He said, "Brother, don't let your age be your cage." And when he
Ooh,
said
yes.
those words there, it liberated me, because what happened then is there's a resurgence in my spirit. There's a renewing in my sight. Listen, I was never conscious of age ever. I grew up a very precocious kid. So I never act my age because I didn't know how my age was supposed to. I was always thought to
Mm,
be older when I was younger. I always was precocious. I have a hard time. You ask me, well, how old is that person? I have no idea. I have no idea. I have no idea because I don't see in the spectrum of age. And when we
right.
don't limit
Right.
our vision, notice what I'm saying. Don't limit our vision by age. Don't
Yeah,
limit
I
our
don't see
vision.
age and I don't see color.
No, we have to.
I don't see color either. And so many people are caught up on that. Well, they don't look like me and they don't look like you and stuff like that. And then they count out their blessings.
I believe this. I often wish people happy birthday, and I end that birthday salutation this way. I say to them these words here: expect the great. And I say to them, you know, may the rest of your life be the best of your life. Why? Because we don't have to stop. Listen, age and time happen to all one people.
Hmm.
But we should not stop having expectations simply because we're older. We need to still be preparing for the next opportunity. What is it we're walking into? We talked, I think, the other week, and it was Howard Thurman who said these words here. He said, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an
An
opportunity and not be
opportunity
prepared.
not to prepare.
And so that's important. By the same token, I need those people that are listening who oftentimes have been defeated by their past, who have listened to the voice of disappointment, because people are going to always remind you of what you used to be. People will always
Hmm.
remind you of your past failure. There are folks that secretly are jealous of you because of mistakes or things that you did when you were simply immature and did not have life experience. And they're still trying to nail you to the cross on that. But I love what Ralph Waldo Emerson said. He said, what lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. And that's what we have to
Absolutely.
focus on. Absolutely.
Absolutely. We're going to keep expecting the great. Dr. J. Sometimes it looks funny.
Yeah,
Sometimes it acts funny. But we're not driven by what it looks like, act like, or sometimes even our feelings. We have to go with what we know in our spirit to be true, in our mind and our thought and our visions and desires for ourselves.
yeah,
Stop allowing people to dictate your reality. And by all means, don't hold on to individuals that want to make you an option.
yeah,
This is your season. This is a new season. You are the season. You bring the season to the hour. So
absolutely.
don't allow anybody to dictate your circumstances or what you should have, could have, would have done or be. If it's to be, it is up to you. We create our own path and our own destiny because we walk it out by faith. Faith is
Absolutely.
believing something we don't see or feel. We just know it in our gut, we know it in our soul that this is where we need to be. This has been another Hot Topics from the Soul. I'm Dr. Val Parker Hagen. You can find me on from the soulofwoman.com, and you can also find Dr. J on jrthicklin.com. Dr. J, any closing remarks?
A closing remark for you today is listen here. Expectation doesn't have to have an expiration date. You can
Hmm.
expect today, you can expect tomorrow. The only difference is that allow your faith and your works to align themselves together. One step. The journey of 1,000 miles begin with one step. I'm telling you, if you get to walking now, you'll be there before you know it.
Be there before you know it. Indeed. Good night. Until next Hot Topics from the Soul. Be blessed.
Thank you for being with us.